So in this video, we're going to look at converting units of area. But before we go into that, we're going to look at just a quick review of converting units of length. So for example, because it sort of has a direct relation here. So when I'm going from kilometers to meters, I'm multiplying by 1,000 as you've got here. Or if I'm going between meters and centimeters, so I've got 1 meter and I'm going to convert it to centimeters, I multiply it by 100 and multiply it by 10. And if I want to go from millimeters to centimeters, I divide by 10, as you've got here, and divide by 100 between centimeters and meters. And you've got to multiply it, if you're going from millimeters all the way up to kilometers, you'd have to go divide by 10, then divide by 100, and divide by 1,000. Okay, so you've sort of done that sort of thing before, and that sort of sets in what we have to do here. It sort of sets a starting point for you to think about, because then we go into converting units of area. And now this is where we go from something like kilometers squared to meters squared. And as I showed before, kilometers to meters, you're multiplying by 1,000. But if I'm doing kilometers squared by meters squared, I'm actually multiplying by 1,000,000, because I'm squaring that 1,000 that I mentioned before. Or if I'm going between meters squared and centimeters squared, I'm multiplying it by 100 squared. Because remember, when you're squaring it, you're basically going 100 times 100, or 1,000 times 1,000, as you've got here, or 10 times 10. And that's where you're getting these values of 1,000,000, or 10,000, or 100, whereas before you had 10, 100, and 1,000. So that's the sort of thing you're doing. So if I'm going between meters squared and all the way down to millimeters squared, so I've got 1 kilometer squared, I want to convert it to millimeters squared, I'm going to go 1 multiplied by 1,000,000, multiplied by 10,000, multiplied by 100. That's that process. Multiply, multiply, multiply. Okay? Now, in the reverse, if I'm going the other way, I'm going to divide by 100, divide by 10,000, divide by 1,000,000. So if I want to have 1 millimeter squared and work out how many kilometers squared it is, I'm going to have to divide by 100, 10,000, 1,000,000. So that's that process you're talking about there. So here's some questions. So for example, if I go 2 centimeters squared to millimeters squared, so if I'm going centimeters squared, I've got a little thing down the bottom. So if I've got centimeters squared, I want to go to millimeters squared, I might need to multiply by 100. So I'm going to go, so if I go I'm going to go 2 centimeters squared equals 2 times 100, and that's going to be millimeters squared now. So that's going to be equal to 200 millimeters squared. Okay. If I picked something like F, I want to go 700 I want to go centimeters squared here, and I want to go to meters squared, because that's what that thing is there looking at. I'm going to go, so F would be 700 centimeters squared equals, and I've got, it was 700 divided by 10,000. Okay, because that's what we're talking about there, to go from centimeters squared to meters squared. And that will give you an answer of 0.07 meters squared. All right. We haven't done hectare, so I would probably, I'm not going to show you that one now because I don't have an example that I can. Oh, I've got an example there. Sorry, I missed that before. So I've got a hectare. That means if I go from meters squared to hectare, I've got to either multiply by 1,000 to go that direction, or divide by 1,000. So that was a bit of a mistake on my part. So let's pick one of those ones. So I want to go from meters squared. Actually, no, I picked the wrong one. I want to go from 400. So let's go K. That means 4,000 meters squared. And I'm going to convert to hectare. So I'm going meters squared, so I'm going this direction. So I'm going to divide by 10,000. So I'm going to go 4,000 divide by 10,000. Okay. And that's going to give me 0.4. I actually should have included this before. Hectare here and hectare here. And I should have done the same up on the top one there. So that's what it should look like. So that's the process. You've just got to look at, in a question like this, you've got to look at what's here and what's it going to. And so sometimes if it's going from centimeters to centimeters squared to millimeters squared, I multiply it. If I'm going the other way, I divide it. You just got to know what those conversion factors are there. Okay.